Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Okay, so first let us decide the date about the test. That test I'm supposed to take uh, on 30 marks test.
Yes, sir.
So
We are basically discussing on that, and soon we will let you know, sir. Maybe within a day or two.
okay, so it will be 30 marks test and it will be assignment mode. So I'll give you questions and you'll have to submit the answer of the questions within a given time. So let me know what about the other subjects? How much time other teachers are giving?
So till now we have given two CTs. One is for the FM, another one is Dynamics. FM one we have given it for 4 hours. Dynamics we had appeared for 1 hour and 20 minutes test, and for heat transfer we are appearing for 2 hours test.
So that is your not assignment mode, is it? In what way they are taking?
Basically, they are sending in the question, and we have to submit the answer script within that stipulated time period.
So for this subject, what how do you want?
Sir, 4 hours, sir, 4 hours.
Sir, 2 hours would be suffice.
Sir, 2 hours only.
Okay, sir, 2 hours.
somebody no I'll give you maximum time as possible. Somebody is telling 2 hours and another one 4 hours. So let us give 4 hours time.
Okay, sir. What's sir pleaseth you?
4 hours time, so 30 marks, and within that time you should submit the answer script. Okay.
Okay,
Sir,
sir.
what sir, about syllabus? What is the syllabus?
Syllabus, you tell me. You tell me what should be the syllabus.
Sir, we can keep it up to phase like a FC diagram.
Yes, that will be okay.
I mean, if you are comfortable, if you feel like
No,
it can.
I do not have any problem.
ঠিক আছে স্যার মানে আমাদের অসুবিধা নেই মানে এফসি অবধি তাহলে রাখি
দেখো ফেজ ডায়াগ্রাম তারপরে দেখো thing is that when your class is getting dissolved.
ক্লাসেস তো মনে হয় 12 তারিখ থেকে তো আমাদের এমনি সেমিস্টার শুরু হচ্ছে
Practical December, sir.
No, 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 no. I'm telling about the theoretical dissolve date so far as academic calendar is concerned.
Yes, sir. 18th December.
18th December.
Yes, sir.
18th December. Okay. So, okay, so up to phase
Yes,
diagram, is
sir.
it? Up to phase diagram.
হ্যাঁ এফসি মানে কার্বন আয়রন ফেজ ডায়াগ্রাম যেটা আছে অত দূর অবধি
হিট ট্রিটমেন্টটা বাদ দিয়ে।
হ্যাঁ হিট ট্রিটমেন্টটা বাদ দিয়ে
Okay, so in the last class I gave you the slide heat treatment. Have you gone through that? সেটা পড়েছো? সেটা কি আমার ডিসকাস করার দরকার আছে? আদারওয়াইজ আই উইল গো টু দি নেক্সট টপিক।
স্যার একবার আপনি যদি ডিসকাস করে নেন না ভালো হয় মানে কিছু পোর্শন একটু বুঝতে অসুবিধা হচ্ছিল তাই জন্য আপনি যদি একবার বলে দেন তো সুবিধা হয়ে যায় স্যার
Okay. So is it visible? Slide দেখা যাচ্ছে?
Yes, sir. It is visible.
Yes,
হ্যাঁ
sir.
স্যার দেখতে পাচ্ছি
Okay. So today we'll discuss about the heat treatment. Now in manufacturing of different components, it is a very, very important process after machining. As you know that we, manufacturing components considering two primary manufacturing processes. One is forming process, another one is machining process. In forming process, we, give the different types of shape by, different processes like forging, rolling, milling, not milling, sorry, forging, rolling, extrusion. These are some of the processes which are called the forming processes. And in forming processes also what we do, we heat the material and give the desired pressure to transform the material into the required shape. So what happens, there are a lot of internal stresses are developed within the material. So those internal stresses actually cause harm to the property of the material. So we want to, remove those internal stresses and so that the mechanical property of the material gets improved. So that is one objective of heat treatment. And in case of machining also, when you are, cutting the material with the help of cutting tool in machine shop and removing the material, there also, there may be some, of course, that cutting process also, the temperature rise is quite high. So there may be some internal, change so far as the uh, grain shape and size is concerned, and that actually induces some stresses within the material. So those internal stresses are also to be removed. So heat treatment is a very, very important. Apart from this, suppose we are going to manufacture a particular type of alloy. Let us consider ferrous alloy. Then what happens that this heat treatment process a very important role in, in developing the mechanical properties within the material. As we have seen in the TTT diagram, time, temperature, and transformation diagram, if you remember, then depending on the cooling rate, whether it is a furnace cooling or it is air cooling or say oil quenching or water quenching, depending on the cooling rate, you will get different final microstructure. And these microstructure actually affects the mechanical properties. So depending on your requirement, whether you want to, improve the hardness of the material, ductility of the material, or tensile strength, you can have different cooling rate and you can change the mechanical properties. So this is also a sort of, heat treatment process. So heat treatment process is a very, very important process in manufacturing. So let us see what are the different heat treatment processes and how these heat treatment processes are done. So this is basically, we can say this is a strengthening mechanism of material. So how to strengthen the metals, like there are a few points regarding strengthening of materials. Now, there is a, what about, about the cold working and hot working. So cold working and hot working, we differentiate, based on the, temperature, one temperature which is called the recrystallization temperature, and this temperature is around 723 degrees centigrade we have seen in iron carbon equilibrium diagram. So when you are performing some work on a material which is heated above the recrystallization temperature, it is called the hot working. And in cold working, when you are performing some processing operations below that particular temperature, it is called the cold working. So, depending on this cold working on, when you are performing cold working, as it has been mentioned here, strain hardening, the material gets hardened because of cold working, because of applications of some external pressure on the material. And also, as I have told you that the internal stresses are developed because of the cold working. So those stresses are to be removed so that the material gets strengthened. Then another way of improving the strength of the material is solid solution hardening. We will see what is solid solution hardening. It is obvious. Let see. We have already discussed this point. Solid solution hardening. Say I am giving the same example. I am giving the same example. Let us say suppose you want to make an alloy. Ah, so this ferrous material, let us say, if you take a pure iron, it is a soft material, and its tensile strength is quite low, and practically, you cannot use that way to manufacture some components with only pure iron. So what we do, we mix suitable alloying element. Here it is carbon, so that we get a solid solution and the material gets hardened. So as you increase the percentage of carbon in iron, the hardness will increase, and also the other properties. So this is called the solid solution hardening. There are so many other examples also. This is just one example I am giving. Next, it is called the precipitation hardening. This is basically nothing but the heat treatment. We'll discuss it in detail. Then another method of strengthening the metal is called the dispersion hardening. So fine particles are added. Fine particles are added within a material to improve its mechanical properties. And there are also other processes we'll see. So strengthening of metals or alloys is a very, very important part in manufacturing. So this is just a diagram which shows the grain boundaries of. So this is a microstructure which shows the grain boundaries and the original material. Now here is one important equation. This is a very famous equation known as Hall-Patch equation. Hall-Patch equation. It relates the yield strength of the material with its average grain size. So this is a very important equation. Now here in this equation you can say sigma naught plus some constant divided by root of d. This d actually indicates the average grain diameter. So this equation relates the yield strength. So if you can measure, obviously, if you can measure the average grain size within a microstructure, and this can be measured very easily. So if you can measure this average grain size, so average grain size is related by this equation. So obviously, as the average grain size increases, so larger will be the grain, lower will be the yield strength. That is the indication of this equation. Larger will be the grain size, lower will be the yield strength. So, we have seen that TTT diagram. There we can have the coarse perlite or fine perlite. Coarse perlite means you can see the grain size is larger, and fine perlite means the grain size is smaller. So that way we can say the coarse perlite will induce lower tensile strength in the material, whereas the smaller grain size like fine perlite will increase its yield strength. So that way this equation can be used to interpret the yield strength with the average diameter. So this is known as Hall-Patch equation. So we have seen in okay, this is grain boundaries. So we have discussed about the defects called the dislocation. So around the grain boundaries, we have the large concentration of this dislocation around these grain boundaries, because the grain boundary around the grain boundaries, dislocations cannot move further. So this actually effectively strengthens the crystal. So another way is called another explanation is the work hardening. Work hardening or strain hardening results in the increase in the strength material. So this is also another equation. This equation is known as Ladwig's equation. So how much strain will be induced in a material if some strain hardening takes place in that material? So that we can find out using this equation. So this equation relates the yield strength plus some constant into epsilon P to the power n. This n is called the strain hardening index. Now, this is the strain that is induced within the material because of the cold working or some sort of, mechanical processing. So, if some strains are induced in the material, as we know that the internal stresses will be developed. So, how much will be that internal stress? Apart from this yield strain, there will be some additional term. This stress will be developed. So, this will be your total stress. So, the second part is the stress that is getting developed because of this strain hardening. So, this is also another equation which is used to determine the stress within the material. Now, this is some idea how this, uh, the strains are developed and how the grain size gets deformed. So, what happens? First, the material is heated, and then let us say some rolling operations is being performed here. So, as you are performing the rolling, the grain size is getting reduced, and then so obviously here some internal stresses will be developed, and further if you perform the cold working on the material, further there will be reduction in the grain size as shown in this. So obviously here a lot of internal stresses will be developed. So this unless you remove these internal stresses, then this material actually may fail much earlier than the desired life. So this relieving of internal stresses can be done heat treatment processes, and that we will discuss. Now I was mentioning about the solid solution strengthening or alloying. Just let us try to understand how it can do that. So you see, this is a piece of a material, let us assume, and what we are doing that if you are considering this small dots or spheres, you can say these are the solute atoms, and the material is the volume of the material you can see. Now if we mix the solute atoms within a material, then what will happen? These atoms actually hinders the movement of dislocation lines. So it hinders the movement, resists the movement of dislocation lines. So what will happen? So the dislocation line will not move faster. So that is how we can reduce the plasticity within the material. So plasticity is getting reduced. That means the material is getting hardened, or the hardness of the material is actually improved. So when you are alloying or you are adding some metal some elements on with you are mixing with another element, then what is happening is that this because of these solute atoms, the hardness is increased, strength is also increased, all sorts of mechanical properties are getting actually increased. Like we may take the pure aluminium. Pure aluminium is comparatively softer material, tensile strength is quite low, and on that if you just mix some hard particles, then it will be the whole mass will be strong enough, and the tensile strength and other properties will get increased. So this is solid solution strengthening. So this diagram indicates that particular idea. So this is also known as the dispersion and precipitate hardening. So concept is same. Now this is another way of looking at it. So how this dislocation movement on slip can be resisted with the help of some solute atoms which are mixed within the volume of the material. So dispersion strengthening and solid solution hardening, there's a difference. When you are actually replacing a regular iron atom, let us say, and you are mixing, let us say, chromium. So this particular iron atom is getting removed, and here it is this chromium atom is added. So this is, we call the solid solution, substitutional solid solution, and this is call this solution hardening. Whereas when this solute atoms takes the interstitial position, we call it as dispersion or precipitate hardening. So this diagrams we have already discussed in while we are discussing about the defects in material. So this basically indicates the movement of dislocation motion. So if some solute atoms are within there within the mass of the material, so what happens? This dislocation or extra half plane or dislocation line will not easily move. And thereby the material gets hardened, and the mechanical properties like toughness, then your yield strength, so all these gets improved. So this structure we have seen ferrite, stenite, cementite, perlite, martensite structure. These structures we have seen in phase diagram in detail. So this is the real diagram. You can just see those diagrams in the phase diagram lecture. Now let us go to the topic, heat treatment. What do you mean by heat treatment? So heat treatment is an operation or combination of operations involving heating at a specific rate, choking at a temperature for a certain period of time, and cooling at some specified rate. So the aim is to obtain desired microstructure to achieve predetermined set of properties like physical, mechanical, magnetic, or electrical properties. So here three important terms are important. Three important terms are there. One is that we must have to heat at a specific rate. You cannot, there are different heat treatment processes like annealing, normalizing, process annealing, spheroidizing, hardening. So different types of heat treatment processes are there, and each of these processes has got a different, a definite way of performing the process. Like for normalizing, you must have to heat the material at a specific rate. Then the material is to be kept at a certain constant temperature for a certain period of time, and then it is to be cooled at some specified rate. So heating rate, then choking time at a certain temperature, and then cooling rate. So these three important parameters are there in heat treatment. So this must be properly taken into consideration for a particular type of heat treatment process. And obviously the heat treatment process will depend on our requirement. What do we want? What will be our final predetermined set of properties within the material, and accordingly we have to select the heat treatment process. Now here is a few heat treatment processes which shows the diagram. This gives a basic idea. Now in y-axis you are taking temperature, and in x-axis you are taking time. And the dotted line actually indicates that recrystallization temperature, or the temperature that we take, the 723 degrees centigrade. So here we have got some processes, heat treatment processes, like one is called the full annealing, then we have got the hardening, we have got the tempering, stress relieving, spheroidizing, ostempering, martempering. So these are some of the processes. Let me explain any one or two processes to explain the difference. Say for example, say you are performing full annealing. We will come in detail about each of these processes. So in this diagram, what we are telling, this, there is a definite rate of increasing the temperature. This is the temperature. That means we'll have to heat the specimen above the recrystallization temperature or austenitic transition temperature. So in iron carbon diagram we will see it in better way, but for the time being I can see that this rate, this line actually indicates, this slope also indicates the rate of cooling, indicates the rate of heating. So you are hitting the specimen at a definite rate, and you are taking it to above this temperature, decrystallization temperature. It is around say 50 to 60 degree above this temperature. Actually, there will be some temperature which is called the upper critical temperature or lower critical temperature, that we will see in the iron carbon equilibrium diagram, and that is to be kept for some time. So this is the period which is called the soaking time, and after that it is to be cooled. So here you can see this the slope of this line is quite less compared to this hardening. Hardening is a vertical, it's a vertical line. So the temperature is drastically reduced here. So maybe the water quenching. So just after taking from the furnace, the oil quenching or water quenching is done. The rate of cooling is very high. So this indicates the difference. Hardening means, as you have seen, that when you are suddenly, quenching a material, there is a from final micro constituents that will be formed will be actually the cementite, and which makes the material very hard. So and this is how the three different important factors are there: heating rate, soaking time, and the cooling rate. So this actually makes these three parameters differentiates the different heat treatment processes. For full annealing, this is the diagram. For hardening, you can see, although the heating rate almost same, because it will be heating in a particular furnace. Then here, there is a difference in the soaking time. Then obviously the cooling rate will be different for different systems. Then you have the tempering. Then you have stress relieving method. Then we have got the spheroidizing. We'll discuss each of these. Then os tempering, mar tempering. So this slide actually gives you some basic idea about the heat treating thermal cycles for different heat treatment processes. Now these are some of the heat treatment processes which are used for steels. Very important, because iron and steel we extensively use. So these are some of the heat treatment processes. Hardening, basically objective is written here. When you are considering hardening, then you will follow this heat treatment processes. When you are considering softening of the material or conditioning, then we are having the different types of heat treatment processes. Like hardening, we have direct hardening or diffusion hardening. In direct hardening, we have got the austenize and quenching. By quenching, as we have discussed, by quenching appropriate cooling rate, we can increase the hardness of the material. Then selective austenize and quench, flame hardening, induction hardening, laser hardening, electron beam hardening. So these are some of the processes. Then you have the diffusion treatment. So we have studied the diffusion in detail. So we can diffuse some required atoms or elements within the parent material, and we can increase the hardness. So one is called the carburizing. Carburizing, basically diffusing the carbon atom. Then we have got the nitriding, diffusing nitrogen atom. We have got the boronizing, when we are going to diffuse boron atom. So like that, we have got different diffusing elements, like it can be vanadium also, silicon, then combination of carbon nitrogen, which is called carbonitriding. So like that, we have got the different types of this heat treatment process. Again, when we require to soft the material, then we have another type of heat treatment processes. We have got the annealing, tempering. So like that, we have got in annealing, we have got the process annealing, full annealing.
স্যার আমরা কি এগুলো কি এমনি ফিজিক্যালি দেখতে পাবো, মানে লাইক আমাদের ওই পাওয়ার ল্যাবে গিয়ে, হিট এন্ড পাওয়ার ল্যাবটা যে আছে,
পাওয়ার ল্যাবে গিয়ে দেখানো যেতে হিট ট্রিটমেন্ট এটা বেসিক্যালি কিভাবে করা, হিট ট্রিটমেন্ট প্রসেস আমাদের আছে, ফার্নেস গুলো আছে, কিন্তু এটাকে আমাদের সেইভাবে আন্ডার গ্রাজুয়েট ছেলেদেরকে জাস্ট বলে দেওয়া হয়। পিজি ছেলে যারা আছে তারা অ্যাকচুয়ালি এক্সপেরিমেন্ট গুলো করে।
আচ্ছা,
ঠিক আছে, তো জাস্ট থিওরিটিক্যালি তোমাদেরকে বলে দেয় কিভাবে করা হয়, দ্যাট উই ক্যান এক্সপ্লেন টু ইউ। And if you are interested, you can see also in any, নেটে তুমি দেখে নিতে পারো, if you are interested, পেয়ে যাবে।
ঠিক আছে।
So like that, you have a conditioning also, stress relieving. So these are some of the So, name of some of the heat treatment processes. Now, main point is what are the objectives of heat treatment? The major objectives, like I have already pointed out, to increase strength, it should be hardness. So, to increase strength, hardness, wear resistance. So these are the required high heat treatment processes that has been shown here. Bulk hardening, surface hardening. So when you are going to harden the whole volume of the material, it is called bulk hardening, then surface hardening. Then we can increase the ductility of the material also, and we can soften the material by tempering or recrystallization, annealing. We can increase toughness by tempering, recrystallization, annealing. So what you can try to know or remember is that which particular heat treatment process is required for what purpose. That is at least you should try to remember here. When you want to get the fine grain size, so fine grain size, that means you are going to increase. If the grain size becomes finer, then obviously from Hall Page equation, as you know, that the yield strength will get increased. Then to remove the internal stresses induced by differential deformation. Differential deformation means whether you are performing the cold working, hot working and all that. So non-uniform cooling. Again, when the cooling rate is not uniform, then we have seen that there will be a segregation and coring. So that actually makes the material inferior so far as property is concerned. So from high temperature during casting and welding, so this actually happens during actual manufacturing processes. So we must have to remove the internal stresses. Then we want to improve the machinability also, improve the cutting properties of the tool steels. So many objectives, it actually depends on what particular, what is your particular requirement, and accordingly you have to select the heat treatment process. You can improve the surface properties, electrical properties, even magnetic properties can also be improved by heat treatment. Now, this is the APC diagram that we have already seen. Now, we want to see the different heat treatment processes in the APC diagram so that it becomes easier to understand. So, these are some of the important heat treatment processes I have already mentioned. Now, this is the diagram. This is a very important diagram. You should actually try to note this diagram, because this is where you can actually superimpose the different heat treatment diagram on your iron
But
carbon.
এটা অনেকটা অ্যানালোগাস না ওই আয়রন কার্বন ডায়াগ্রামের সাথে?
আরে ওই আয়রন কার্বন ডায়াগ্রামের উপরেই আমি দেখাচ্ছি এটা হিট ট্রিটমেন্ট প্রসেস গুলো কোথায় লোকেটেড। মিন্স আমি এক্সপ্লেন করি, লেট মি এক্সপ্লেন ইট। সাপোজ, so you know that 0.8 this percentage, this is eutectoid point, Now if you are let us say that you have got a steel which contains around 0.3% carbon, 0.3% carbon you have got, and you want to perform the normalization, তাহলে তোমার next, then this is the normalization zone. This is the normalization zone, or sometimes it is called full annealing also. So this is the normalization zone. Well, 0.3% you have got here somewhere. The point will be somewhere here, 0.3, and you go up. And actually, if this is the normalization zone, then what happens is that in this iron carbon equilibrium diagram, you try to know these three lines. One is called the A3, then ACM, and this is A1. So A1, as you know, it is recrystallization temperature, and recrystallization line you can consider this one, and this is this A3 line is called the upper critical temperature. This A1 is called the lower critical temperature actually. and A3 is called the upper critical temperature, and on the right side this ACM whole line A3 plus ACM is known as upper critical temperature, and this upper critical temperature line varies for different percentage of carbon. If the percentage of carbon is from, let us say, 0 to 0.8%, then we will consider A3 as the upper critical temperature. And if the percentage of carbon in the specimen is more than, say, 0.8, then ACM we consider as the upper critical temperature. Now, what is the relevance of this A3 and ACM so far as heat treatment is concerned? That is what you should try to remember. That is, suppose, let us say I have got a steel which contains 0.3% carbon. I want to perform some heat treatment on that. So I will have to, so you'll have to come to this particular point at A3. So this is the point. So from y-axis also you can read this temperature. So this temperature, normally what happens, you will have to heat the specimen. You'll have to heat the specimen around 50 to 60 degrees above the A3 line. That is the temperature at which you have to heat, and then you'll have to at a certain rate, and then you have to keep it for certain period of time, which is known as soaking time, and then you'll have to cool it. If you are performing, say, normalizing or full annealing, then the cooling rate will be, maybe it is actually the air cooling. Air cooling is done. Air cooling, sometimes furnace cooling also done. So that is how you will perform full annealing or normalization or normalizing. Now, this is for still I have considered which has carbon percentage 0.3%. Now let us take a specimen which is having around, say, 1.5% or 1.3% carbon. So you are actually on the right side of the eutectoid point. Let us say 1.5%, somewhere here 1.5%. So when you are having 1.5% and you want to perform the normalization or normalizing, then you'll have to go like that, and you'll have to go beyond the ACM line. So this is the temperature. So roughly it comes out to be, let us say, line 920 or 930 degrees centigrade. So you will have to heat that particular specimen higher, about 50 to 60 degrees centigrade than this temperature, and you have to keep it there as soaking time, and then you have to cool it. So for different materials you'll have to have different temperature and soaking time, heating rate, etc. So this whole region, starting from this point in the left hand side, and you are going above the upper critical temperature, this whole region is called the normalizing region. And when you are talking about the full annealing, you see full annealing starts from this side, and when the percentage of carbon is more, that means beyond this eutectic point, the full annealing actually is just above the lower critical temperature. So these zones are very important, identifying the different zones, so that given a particular specimen, you know what will be my temperature zone, in which zone I'll have to heat the material, and I'll have to keep that material for some time in that at that temperature. So that is very important. So this is the two important heat treatment processes: full annealing and normalizing. And another one is called, not all processes has been shown here, stress relieving. Sometimes it is called the spheroidizing, just below the lower critical temperature. This zone is called the spheroidizing zone. So basically in spheroidizing, what we do, we try to make the iron particles, microstructures in spherical shapes, so that the tensile strength gets improved. Actually, this will be further explained in your metallography lab, what is the role of spheroidizing and all that, how it affects the mechanical properties. So here the carbon particles or the particularly it will be much more relevant for these cast irons, because there if you perform the spheroidizing, what happens, the graphite flakes which are there within the, let us say, gray cast iron, those graphite flakes will be transformed into nodular form or spherical shape, and thereby the material becomes ductile and also the tensile strength gets improved. So that is what the spheroidizing is. And stress relief annealing also is done below this temperature A1 line, and also recrystallization annealing. It is all these same names you can consider. So almost all these three processes are done within this zone. Now here is the, now briefly I have told you that about the full annealing. So here you can see the full annealing in detail. So with respect to the iron carbon equilibrium diagram, which is the zone or where the full annealing zone lies, you can see, this is the zone where we can perform the full annealing. And why we should perform, what are the, how it is done, we have already discussed, and what is the result. So the purpose of this heat treatment is to obtain material with high ductility. We can improve the ductility by performing full annealing. Microstructure with coarse perlite is endowed with such properties. The range of the transport has been shown already. The steel is heated above A3 line for hypoeutectoid steels, and for hyper it is heated above A1 line. That is to be noted, and then it is held there for some time to obtain the coarse perlite. So coarse perlite has low hardness but high ductility. It is not more than this, and to avoid the continuous network of the cementite. So this is basically the main idea about how this is done and why this is done. So basically full annealing is done to improve the ductility of the material. Then recrystallization annealing, why it is done, how it is done, everything has been explained. So you can just, if you can go through these things, I think you will be able to understand basic things I have just told you. So normalizing, this is the normalization zone. Why it is done? Refine the grain structure, then to harden the steel, then to reduce the segregation in casting and forging. Then we have got the hardening also. So this is another point with respect to TTT diagram. This is another experiment. It is actually, this experiment is used to measure the hardenability of the material. It is actually now what is hardenability? Hardness and hardenability is different. Hardenability is basically the degree of hardness within a certain depth. So if you let me show you the earlier diagram. Now if this is the material, now here if you are able to, this is the cross section of the material, so you can see that if it is a solid cross section of the material, then what will happen is that if you look at this, the surface of the material, because of the hardening heat treatment process, surface of the material is getting maximum hardness, because here let us say 100% martensite is formed or the cementite is formed. So in the hardness is maximum on the surface, and as you go deeper at the center, you will find that the hardness is minimum here. So this diagram actually gives the profile of hardness or degree of hardness with respect to depth, and this degree of hardness with respect to depth is actually measured with the help of a test which is known as Jominy and Coyne test. So this is a test, actually it is done experimentally. There is a specimen, it is kept vertically, and from the lower side, from below, we actually apply the water jet here and try to cool it first, and then we actually measure the different we try to measure the hardness from this end till upper end and try to draw a diagram something like this. So in x-axis what we are telling the distance from the quench end, on the and y-axis we are taking the hardness. So obviously at the lower end, since it is directly getting quenched, hardness will be maximum, and as you are going up, hardness will be slightly lower. So this is the hardness profile, and it gives actually the degree of hardness for a particular material. So here you can see for a C 54 carbon, we are getting 50% martensite has formed at this particular distance. So this is the distance in y-axis we are sorry x-axis taking, and in the y-axis we are taking the rock oil hardness. So hardenability is basically the degree of hardness imparted within a material, and this is measured by Jomini end quench test, whereas as you know the hardness is measured by rock oil hardness. আমি একটা ক্লাসে আছি। হ্যাঁ 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 ওকে হ্যাঁ ওকে। So this is about the Jomini end quench test, which is used to measure the hardenability of a material. How to increase hardenability? This you can just go through. Tempering, mud tempering, os tempering has been explained here. Some of the important slides I will just explain. Heat treatment of steel for strength. Now this is with respect to iron carbon equilibrium diagram. Now here is the actual diagram. If you look, just try to understand the, at least try to understand the microstructure which you will get on ferrous material, and try to have some idea. On the left hand side you can see in diagram A, you can see only the grain boundaries and very low percentage of carbon. So this is of ferrite. On the right hand side in diagram B, here you can see the thread like structure, and in between you have got the matrix. So this is basically perlite, which is a coarse perlite, and below it is the fine perlite, or you can say this is sort of a martensite structure they are telling, but martensite structure is slightly different. So this is coarse perlite and it should be fine perlite. Let us see some more diagram. Open austenizing. These are some direct hardening methods. Each of the processes have been explained in detail. You just have a look on this. Then there are quenching methods. This is flame hardening, direct hardening method, flame hardening. How it is done, this has been shown here. Then you have got the induction hardening. Material is heated with some electrical power and then it is quenched, which is induction hardening. Diffusion hardening, we have discussed in detail about diffusion. So you know diffusion hardening, types of diffusion hardening. Then we have got the carburizing. Carburizing actually a process where we induce the carbon atom within the specimen. So the material is actually kept within a carburizing atmosphere. It's a pack carburizing, that has been shown here. Then there is the nitriding. How nitriding is done, that process has been shown here. So there is a source of nitrogen from ammonia, and that is actually here through this pipeline it enters into this atmosphere, and there this nitrogen atom gets induced or diffused into that workpiece. So detailed processes are there. I am not going into the detail. This is the nitriding softening and conditioning. Then we have got the annealing details. What is the objective of annealing, how it is done, what are the different steps that has been shown here. Difference between annealing and austenizing. So each of these processes has been explained, just have a look. And this is the change in mechanical properties because of the tempering process. How the properties get changed. And TTT diagram is there, that we have already discussed. The TTT diagram is also here because it is related to heat treatment. So that is why I have added this TTT diagram here. So this is the actual diagram of coarse perlite, a clear diagram. And this is also one type of, so there can be different types of microstructure, so many different types of microstructure. Then fine perlite. So this is further detail of TTT diagram. Isothermal, this thing. So this is briefly about the heat treatment processes, and I will send the PPT to your mail. You go through this thing, and then if you have any clarifications, we can have always discuss that. So today, there are some disturbances here. You see, some sanitization work is going on here. So today I will not continue. In the next class, what we will do, we will start electrical properties, and you tell me the date of the exam.
Sir, our class representative will surely communicate to you about that.
Yes.
Within a day or two, sir.
And other details I will tell you how to know.
Yes, sir. The syllabus, if there is any change, maybe some people may or may not agree. We will confirm you the other details by a day or two. So.
Yes.
Surely, sir.
So that we can have the exam.
Obviously, sir. Surely, sir.
So today we are stopping here.
Okay, sir.
So thank you all.
Thank you, sir. So then we are disconnecting ourselves. Sir.